Welcome to this session on managing disasters role of administration. I am Uma Meduri from Faculty of Public Administration, School of Social Sciences. Today in this session, we shall be discussing the various aspects of the management aspects of disasters. Disasters, as we know, right from the beginning and more so during the period 1960s and the recent tsunami disaster, as we have seen, has really played havoc with the lives of the people. It has resulted in loss of human lives, destruction of social, economic and various physical infrastructure. On top of it, it has affected the ecosystems of the countries, and in a way the entire coastline of the South Asia has been badly affected by the recent tsunami disaster. When we speak of the role of administration in managing disasters, the first thing that occurs to everybody's mind is administration is something that comes into the picture only when the disaster takes place. So, is the role of administration confined only to the provision of relief, or what are the various facets of the disaster management cycle? As students of administration and disaster management, we know that there is a disaster management cycle which starts with development, then comes the prevention, preparedness aspects, mitigation, then response, rehabilitation, reconstruction and recovery. So, does the administration, does it have a role in all these aspects, or is its role confined only to the provision of relief and succor when the disaster happens? Now, the word disaster generally has, or it is supposed to be having some negative connotations. Is that so? Does it have some positive things to say, or does it bring about some positive aspects in the economy or in the countries concerned? Today we shall focus on all these aspects. Now, along with me I have Professor Pradeep Sahni and Dr. Dolly Matthew to discuss the various aspects of this managing disasters and the role of administration. Now, I would like Dr. Sahni to comment on whether disasters, do they have any or only positive, negative impact, or does it have any positive attributes also? Professor Sahni.
Thank you very much, Uma. Actually, the word disaster, which is composed of des and aster, that is bad stars, per se when we look at it, we find that, well, it has certainly the negative implications. It means destructions, it means loss of life, it means loss of property, it means loss of infrastructure, and a lot many things which definitely stand in the way of the overall development of the country, development of the polity, development of the society, as well as with regard to the regulatory activities being undertaken by administration and the other governmental as well as non-governmental actors which are involved therein. As a student of disaster management, when one looks at it, one finds that, well, disasters are probably as old as humanity, whereas when we talk of hazards, we find that hazards are as old as the universe itself. When we look at the genesis of the universe, we find that it is the great Lord the Almighty who created the trees, the oceans, the mountains, the rivers, the waters, everything, the birds, and then later on created the human being. When we go by the definition of the word disaster, we find it that the disaster is the one which, when it affects, it puts to loss a greater one to the humanity, to the human beings, to the infrastructure, to the property, to number of other things which are causing upon the overall developmental as well as the regulatory affairs of the country as a whole. As stated earlier, and which was referred to by my colleague Dr. Uma, that, well, these are the unwelcomed guests. Once when the disaster strikes, probably the generation or the generations to follow, they are unable to forget the aftermath of that particular disaster. Maybe one goes back to the 1935 Kyoto disaster, the earthquake which had taken place. Maybe in the past, when we look back onto the annals, we find it that whether it was the 1999 Odisha super cyclone or it was the 2001 Bhuj earthquake on 26th of January, again the 26th day of December 2004, when we had seen that the tsunami has struck in a big way in almost good number of the countries of Southeast Asia and South Asia. India alone has suffered a greater amount of setback onto that. Whether disaster has only the negative connotations or disaster has certain positive implications as well, this is the point which was raised by Uma. I would like to reflect upon it, and you will see it on your monitors that when we try to make an analysis of the word disaster, we find that it is DIS, ASTER, and the D per se. From negatively, when we look at it, it means damage. Damage which is being done to the human beings, damage which is being done to the hospitals, to the schools, to the railway lines, to the roads, and number of other infrastructural items or the activities which are required to be taken up. But likewise, when we look at this word, this alphabet D in the word disaster, we find that positively it is development. As Uma referred to, that disasters and development, they are correlated. But then it becomes an issue whether disasters lead to development or it is the development which leads to disaster. Number of people, number of the studies which have been conducted in the past do speak about it, that well, there was development and the development was not in a manner which was according to the bylaws, according to the laid down stipulations and so on, and so it has contributed for the disaster to strike. So, well, negatively one finds that there is disaster means damage, and positively we find that there is development because one gets an exigency, one gets a contingency for the administration and the other non-governmental actors and agencies to cooperate and to work in that particular manner, whereby the devastations which have taken place, those devastations are covered upon, and there is a better amount of the development, not only to cope up with the losses which have occurred due to the disasters, but also to prevent such kind of the happenings to take place in the future. Well, from the Indira Gandhi National Open University, the Faculty of Public Administration, which had been engaged in the educational programs on disaster management, when we did take up a project in 5 most disaster hit states of the country, one of those was Gujarat. We had worked on community awareness on disaster preparedness in Gujarat, and it was much earlier than the 26th January 2001 Bhuj earthquake, where the epicenter was Bhuj. Now, the places where the project work had taken place and the community awareness had been generated, one finds that well, the damage over there was less and people were able to respond onto that particular thing. So, that is again, when one looks at it, one finds that it is a component of development, because development, as one understands, being the one which is engrossed in public administration or in administration, one finds it that development as a term, it is mesmerizing and soothing. Everybody wants it, many chase it, but a few get it. Who are those few? Those few are the ones, those who are able to regulate the changes in a planned manner. Those few are the ones, those who are able to take care, and those who take conscientious steps in the direction whereby they are in position to manage the benefits to be accrued to them to the benefit of the society and community at large. Go back onto it and look at the second alphabet which is there in the word disaster, that is I. Negatively speaking, it is interruption, because when the disaster strikes, take for example the tsunami of 26th December, take for example the 26th January 2001 Bhuj earthquake or the Odisha super cyclone of 29th October 1999. Well, it has interrupted the life of the people. It has interrupted the ongoing activities which were there, whether those were in the field of agriculture, education, industry, rural development and infrastructure, whatever one finds that the whole kind of a life, it probably comes to a standstill. But positively, when one looks at this alphabet I in the word disaster, one finds it that well, it is innovation. There are the innovative ways which are attempted to be taken care of by the people, those who are to manage. Since the topic of the discussion today is disaster management or managing disasters, role of administration, it is expected of administration to be innovative. It is expected of administration to comprise of the people, those who are certainly being bracketed in the category of the high achievers, and the high achievers are the ones, those who are moderate risk takers. High achievers are the ones, those who have satisfaction with the accomplishment. High achievers are the ones, those who have preoccupation with the task. High achievers are the ones, those who have the need for immediate feedback. So, from that point of view, innovations are being attempted at for the purpose of coping up with the losses which have accrued due to the disaster, and also to arrest such kind of the circumstances whereby the devastations could be mitigated, could be reduced, could be prepared to the extent that well, we are able to prevent it as long as possible. The third word, the third alphabet which is there in the word disaster is, that is S, which means negatively severe. Yes, the aftermath of the disaster is severe. Psychologically, socially, politically, economically, culturally, administratively. Any angle you look at it, you find that well, certainly it has severe jolts which it gets on to the people, which it gets on to the manager and to the administrator. But positively, what one finds over there is an element of sharing which is there. People tend to work with each other. People tend to share their resources. People tend to go in that particular manner whereby they could come out with the shocks which have resulted in the wake of the disaster. So, this approach of cooperation, this approach of sharing the resources, and number of the examples are there. Various efforts have been taken up on the different planks, like we talk of now PPP, that is people, public, private partnerships which are taking place for managing the disasters in an effective and efficient manner. The fourth alphabet is A in the word disaster. Negatively, Uma, it is antagonistic. And as all of us are aware of, that when the disaster strikes, certainly the attitude of the people per se, it becomes so pessimistic, it becomes so annoying, it becomes full of agony on the part of the people, those who get the jolts of the disaster. But positively, when one looks at it, certainly it amounts to awareness. So, A has antagonism, A has awareness, negative and positive planks respectively. Again, the word disaster, which is Scrooge. The kind of the things which people do face, which they had not expected. Life is going on in a smooth manner. Suddenly one finds that there is an earthquake. Suddenly one finds there is tsunami. Suddenly one finds that there is a flash flood. These are the kind of the things which becomes very difficult to make the prediction. Though one talks of that, well, there are the Pacific tsunami warning centers and so on and so forth which have been installed. Unfortunately, India was not a member of those 26 member nations, those who had the Pacific tsunami warning system and those who were to get the warning thereupon. But now the government of India is talking of gearing itself to that manner, and administration is becoming more and more capacitated to think of it that, well, there could be some kind of the aspects being taken up where we are able to look the things in a manner that we are able to predict. I was reading it, it is just very recent that the government of Sri Lanka has constituted a commission, the presidential commission headed by the retired judge of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, to find out whether the warning dissemination on account of the 26th December tsunami and the people and the institutions those who are involved therein, whether did they play their role in a proper manner or not. So, this is a big question mark which gets the administration to be on the receiving end. Now, whether administration is to be taken up on the receiving end or administration is to be taken on as on a giving end or a providing end, that is a question to be debated upon. Then T again, the alphabet, it is traumatic. Disaster has trauma, physical, social, mental, the mental agony which people go through it. Our colleague Dolly Matthew is going to refer on to these particular aspects, so I am not getting into details about that. But positively, when one looks at this alphabet T, one finds that it transforms the things which have gone haywire. The systems which were there in the place, those systems have gone God knows where. So, everything is to be started from afresh. And then again the word E, it denotes emergency so far as the negative aspect of it is concerned, and it is education so far as the positive element of this alphabet E in disaster word is concerned. Education is required. We know it that everybody wants to have it, and the country is making the efforts for spread of education at various levels, may it be at the secondary level, may it be at the higher level, may it be at the vocational levels and so on. And now one finds that good number of the institutions are getting geared up to have the disaster management education. It is a point worth taking stock of that the conference of the governors, which was supposed to start on 8th of February and now has been postponed because of the illness of the President of India, because the conference was to be inaugurated by the Honorable President. One of the important agenda items for the governors was to discuss about the strategies for disaster management, and this speak in itself the action or the agenda of the state governments, because disaster management in India, so far as it is concerned, it is a state subject. We are aware of, being the students of public administration, that the subjects are divided into 3 lists: the union list, the state list and the concurrent list. Disaster management falls in the state list. So, obviously, it becomes the direct responsibility of the government of a state to take stock of for effective and efficient disaster management, but nevertheless, it does not absolve the government of India of its responsibility so far as the disaster management is concerned. So, there lies the role and the scope of education, and more so one finds that the ODL systems and the institutions like the Indira Gandhi National Open University at the apex of the ODL system in the country, it has probably more role in not only generating awareness, but also in inculcating the skills among us the different segments of the people, may they be in administration, may they be in the non-governmental organizations, may they be in the cooperative societies, or by and large may they be the public per se. And the last word, the alphabet in the disaster word is R, that is negative connotation, is it implies risk which is involved therein, risk of life, risk of property, risk of infrastructure, everything probably gets in bay. And the positive side of it is that it is resilience which comes out of it. People try to learn there from that, what is to be done, how, various small things, the do's and don'ts, if people are made aware of at the proper time, probably it capacitates the individuals to take the measures in a manner whereby they can probably have lesser amount of the aftermath of the disaster, because one finds it that the disasters can be managed. How can the disasters be managed? What is the role being played by the disaster management experts or the agencies and the institutions and the departments which are involved therein? That is what one probably can debate upon, and then how one can think of that there has to be an integrated approach which has to be put in place, whereby probably the as having been said by the father of general management, Henry Fayol, that it is the 5 elements of the management are planning, organizing and C cube. It is known as POC cube. The C cube is coordinating, controlling and commanding, that how these roles are to be played by the people, those who are involved in administration, and how administration is to woo the actors which are there in the non-administrative sectors for the purpose of management of the disaster in a positive manner. Uma.
As Professor Sahni has rightly said, we all are aware of the negative aspects, but the thing is, let us throw light, like as he has thrown light on the positive aspects, it implies that administration really has a different role to play. Like generally the administration tends to be reactive, but now the scenario has changed. Like as administration really has to be innovative, it has to generate awareness, it has to strengthen the resilience of the communities. All this implies that administration is not the sole actor in the entire process of disaster management. It is ultimately the people at the grassroots level who are facing the wrath of the disasters. So it becomes the collective responsibility of the administration as well as the community, and along with it all the non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations which are working at the grassroots level, to have, as Professor Sahni has said, to have an integrated approach towards the management of the disasters. But all said and done, it is still the administration which has the key role to play, because it has all the resources, and whenever a disaster strikes, immediately the relief which is provided, it is provided by the administration, and generally it is the community which really looks up, like okay, the community we say that has to be self-sufficient, but since the administration provides the resources, the community, it is a general tendency of the community to look up to the administration. So this implies that the disaster manager or the administrator need to have some skills or some really good qualities which enables them to manage the disasters and provide the real succor to the people. So I would like to ask Professor Sahni whether in this entire task of managing the disasters, apart from the routine skills or the administrative skills which the administration generally discharges, do they really have to need some specialized type of skills and capabilities in managing the disasters?
Uma, I will start from a point with regard to this insurance and casualty, this property and casualty insurance so far as the disaster is concerned, because whenever the disaster strikes, it leaves behind so much to be covered up, so much financial resources which are required to be taken up. Now this speaks of that, well, with regard to this element of insurance so far as the casualty and the property is concerned, probably we are not geared up the manner in which we should gear up. When one compares it with a developed country, let us take the example of America, where an individual probably spends to the tune of $1890 per annum per capita on the insurance purposes, we find in India that it is only $16.4 which is being spent for life and non-life insurance in India, and it contains only $4 per person in India so far as the insurance of life is concerned. Now this in its own self, that when India came out with this IRDA, Independent Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, the role which is likely to be played by Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority in a manner that, well, there is an insurance and then, well, it is done up in a reinsured manner, may it be done up by any foreign reinsurer, may it be Munich Re or may it be Swiss Re and so on and so forth, whereby probably the burden on the administration, burden on the government could get reduced. The news do come up to the extent, Dolly, that 1300 crore worth loss which has been reported in Kerala alone. And what is the percentage of the claims which have been filed? That is only 90 lakhs. So that speaks of that it is only 0.9 out of 1300 percentage which has been done up as a matter of the claim. Now where from the government is to fill it up? Now well, whether the government did have the records available with us to find out that who has died, how many people were there over there. Is there proper record maintenance onto it? That is one thing which probably has to be done up at the district and below district level, and more so. It is not difficult to find out that it can be in place, more so when you have the structure which is given. Starting from the Government of India right up to the micro level, when we find it is Government of India, it is state government, it is the commissionary, it is the district collectorate, it is the sub-divisional magistrate, and down below it is there, and we have the Gram Panchayat, Gram Sabhas, Gram Panchayat, Panchayat Samitis, Jila Parishad, state governments and so on. But definitely the record management, proper record management, updation and tabulation, analysis that of, and the management of the record in a manner whereby we could get the results or the proper picture emanating out of it, it is very essentially required. You had raised an aspect with regard to the specific skills which are required to be there so far as the disaster managers or administrators are concerned. Coming back to your question, I find it that when the moment we talk of disaster management and we say that it is a comprehensive ingredient, it is a comprehensive and integrated strategy rather than a piecemeal approach to come to existence only when the disaster strikes and we gear up ourselves to come out with regard to disaster response or for the purpose of distribution of relief and so on. But nevertheless, when we divide it, we say that it is pre-disaster, it is during disaster, and it is post-disaster. Now, well, when you talk of it that it is pre-disaster, one finds it that how the disaster planning could be there for effective results. Probably I would like to view it in three manners. That is a strategic planning. The strategic planning consists of preparing the organization to respond to disaster threats in locations that are not specified and not immediately threatened. So, there is a strategic planning which is being put into place for the purpose whereby one could probably do the things whenever such kind of the event strikes. Second is the contingency planning, which is the site specific and recognizes that a disaster could occur at any time. Did we virtually take stock of it that India would be affected by tsunami? Probably no is the answer to that, and probably that was the sense of complacency, if one could say it, which probably did not permit the Government of India to take some kind of the steps for the purpose of warning to be generated or to be obtained so far as the tsunami as a disaster striking Indian coast was concerned. And the third to that extent is that is the forward planning, which occurs when a disaster is imminent and some details regarding the threat are known to the crisis manager. So, there is a crisis situation, how it is to be managed. When you talk of it during the pre-disaster phase, we say that well, there has to be disaster preparedness, there has to be disaster planning, there has to be disaster mitigation. And the moment you talk of mitigation, we say that it is non-structural mitigation and the structural measures for the mitigation which have to be taken into consideration. Again, onto that we say that there has to be the conscientious and continuous efforts which have to be made so far as the generation and sustenance of the community awareness on disaster preparedness is concerned. So, all these efforts probably need to be in place, and question which comes up over there is that can administration do it single-handedly, or if we view it in the sense that well, why administration should not open up the avenues for having a better kind of cohesiveness and cooperation with other agencies for performing the task of the administration with regard to management of the disaster in an effective manner. Same is true so far as the disaster response or during disaster activities of the administrative steps or the measures which are required to be taken, whether it is search, whether it is rescue, whether it is relief operation, whether it is distribution of food, fodder, whether it is arrangement for the shelter, whether it is provision of the water, the hygienic conditions to be maintained, clearance of the debris, disposal of the dead bodies, disposal of the animal, those who have died during the disaster, filing of the claims and so on. All the gamut of the activities which need to be taken up. Is administration geared up? Does administration has that kind of the manpower and the resources available with it to exclusively devote itself to that particular thing, or it will come into being only when the situation of contingency does arise? Yes, it will come into being at that point alone. But nevertheless, there has to be a preparedness, there has to be a planning, there has to be a mechanism which should be sorted out very clearly. And then the third stage which comes up over there is that is rehabilitation, that is recovery, that is reconstruction, and more so in the rehabilitation other than the economic, social rehabilitation, probably there is this the human lives rehabilitation per se which is required, the trauma which are there, this post traumatic syndromes which do crop up, and that affects probably the victims and the families of the victims in a very glaring manner, and it becomes very difficult for the victims and the families of the associated to forget about that particular aspect. So, well, of course, there are the roles being to be played by psychologists, role being played by the health officials, role being played by the para health medicos, and so on and so forth in that particular manner.
Yes, as Professor Sahni has rightly said, like the administration and other agencies have varied roles to play during pre-disaster, during disaster and post-disaster scenario. As we have seen in the case of recent tsunami disaster also, like now the phase which all countries which have been affected by the tsunami is entering into this post-disaster scenario, especially the rehabilitation aspects. Now, what is this term rehabilitation? Generally, the term rehabilitation, when it occurs to a common citizen, it implies building of houses, retrofitting, or providing some sort of cash payments and things like that. But rehabilitation is very comprehensive in nature. It has the social and psychological aspects also which need to be taken cognizance of. Now, I request Dr. Dolly Matthew to throw light on this entire concept of rehabilitation.
Thank you, Uma. I will continue with what Professor Sahni in fact was saying, that it has to be a comprehensive effort, an integrated approach, and a number of experts along with administration have to go on, have to put in the effort for the entire aspects of disaster, including rehabilitation. We will take rehabilitation along with relief, because after relief only the rehabilitation follows. There are certain things which the administration have to keep in mind before putting in the short term rehabilitation or the long term rehabilitation efforts. Certain principles of rehabilitation are that whenever the rehabilitation tasks have to be taken, it has to focus on that area, that is the area development, area specificities have to be taken into consideration, and a lot of time and careful planning has to be put in whenever we in fact plan about rehabilitation, whether it is short term or it is long term. It has to be accompanied by professional expertise. Administration along with ecologists, scientists, engineers, medical and health personnel, geologists, all have to put together their efforts whenever rehabilitation efforts are being planned for whatever the disaster. All the rehabilitation efforts have to be environmental friendly, have to be ecologically, they have to be friendly, and whenever the development projects have been taken, an impact study on the ecology have to be put in. Better quality of life. Whatever the rehabilitation, it should add to the quality of life of the people. It should enhance their life. It should in fact make the habitat more qualitative. Infrastructure, houses should be planned on a higher land, whether it is in fact on the beaches or whether it is in fact to talk about earthquakes or tsunami. Any earthquake, any disaster that has to be faced, the infrastructure, the houses of the people all have to be placed inland. They have to be not in fact on the beaches or on which are unsafer zones. So, whenever we plan about infrastructure or any housing sites for the people, it has to be on safer zones. Another principle of rehabilitation is there has to be community participation. There can be nothing without the people. For instance, if we take the case of tsunami, there can be nothing without taking into consideration the fishermen, because 90% of the people over there in the coastal areas are fishermen. They have to be taken in planning, in designing, and whenever in fact we talk about the implementation side of any plan or any policy being made for them. So, community participation of that particular region, the particular community have to be taken into cognizance whenever we plan for them. Another most important aspect of rehabilitation is that it should involve all the grassroots agencies, the Panchayat Raj agencies, the Mahila Mandals, the disaster task force, the youths, the teachers, and all the elders and the children, everybody has, the women, all have to be taken in the rehabilitation task. And most important, that it should give dignity, it should take into consideration the dignity. It should, we should not throw the relief to the people from the point of view that they are, they are just at our mercy. They are not at our mercy, they are people with dignity. So, whenever we give them or rehabilitate them, give them relief, give them with a sense of dignity, consider them that they are people, they are human beings, and they have certain amount of self-respect with them. after considering certain basic principles of rehabilitation, we now divide the entire rehabilitation system into two. That is an immediate rehabilitation that has to follow after a disaster, and I will say not a long term disaster, not a long term rehabilitation, but I will put it as not so immediate rehabilitation. That has also to be taken not later but sooner, but after the immediate rehabilitation. We will take first of all the immediate rehabilitation, and the immediate rehabilitation, the first and most important step in the immediate rehabilitation of people is search and rescue. You have to search the people, you have to find them out, you have to take them out of the debris, you have to take them out of the buildings that have fallen down, you have to take them out of great trenches that have been made because of disasters, whether it may be earthquake or whether it may be tsunami. So in this case of tsunami, there was an 8 battalion of paramilitary forces that are trained in the task of search and rescue, and they helped the people, they digged out the people from the debris and they brought them to the relief shelter. So the most important thing in the search and rescue, that is the first step of rehabilitation, is that they have to be searched, they have to be found out, they have to be brought to the relief stations, relief shelters, and the most important thing to follow is a need assessment, a damage assessment. That is an immediate damage assessment, immediate need assessment has to be taken up. Why? Because we have to know where the people have to be transferred, whether they have to be put into a medical camp or whether they have to be taken into a relief camp. Whether people are not injured, they have to be taken to the relief camp. Those who are injured or who are having multiple injuries and all, who have fractures and all, who have so much of multiple wounds and all, they have to be taken to a medical camp. So an immediate assessment of the need or the damage to the people has also to be done with search and rescue. The next step after search and rescue is to bring them to the relief camp. Relief camp means the shelters. Now there they have to be provided with food, water. Water has to be of a drinking nature, of a potable nature. They have to be given medicines, they have to be given pillows, they have to be given mats, they have to be given clothes. Now what happened in the tsunami was that the fishermen were given trousers and jeans. They couldn't wear trousers and jeans, they were habituated of wearing lungis and shirts, but one has to assess the need of what kind of relief should also be provided to them. Then follows identification of victims and authentication for relief and compensation. Now there was a huge line when the government announced compensation, there was a huge line of people asking, give me compensation immediately, because the government announced it. Now where to give the compensation from, even if the money is there, because we need to make an assessment of who really are required to be given the compensation. There are so many people. Now you see, beggars have also gone to that area in the sense of getting relief. It is not to be provided to them, it is to be provided to the people who are affected from that particular disaster. In this case it is tsunami. So one has to immediately identify and authenticate what kind of people, who are really the beneficiaries, who should be in fact given the compensation and relief, and this task has to be taken immediately to rehabilitate the people with money. Then, as what Uma was saying, all kind of rehabilitation. It is not only the monetary rehabilitation or the economic rehabilitation, it has to be the social rehabilitation as well, along with the psychological rehabilitation. To talk of social rehabilitation of the people, which falls into this immediate categories, that you in fact give them health facilities, you give them medical supplies, you provide them with disinfectants, and so that there is no epidemics over there, and the people are taken care of, and especially the women and children. It is the women who are the more vulnerable stock. It is the children who can be just kidnapped and taken away by people, by the other elements of the bad elements of the society. So they have to be protected, they have to be taken care of. So kind of community centers have to be created, in which the people may not be at home, but they can be in fact at least brought to little they be made at home at the community centers itself. Anganwadis can be there for the children, where they can be placed. Orphanages can be there for the orphans. So all these have to be identified, and they have to be placed at these kind of places, so that they feel at least a little bit at home with in that disaster. Then is economic rehabilitation. Immediately if you call upon economic rehabilitation of the people, it is starting the food for work program. In fact, let them in fact contribute to the relief, let them contribute to their work, the physical work, to the relief programs, as well as to the clearing of the debris and all, and food can be provided to them. So a kind of economic benefit can be given to the people when the food for work program can be is started. psychological rehabilitation, which we will take up in detail when we talk about the long term or not so immediate rehabilitation. Immediately to follow psychological rehabilitation means a kind of insecurity or a fear, a psychosis that has come into the minds of the people, into the hearts of the people. Like fishermen in the tsunami raged area do not want to venture into the ocean immediately after the tsunami struck. Now, what is the duty of the NGOs over there? What is the duty of the administration over there? To help them remove this fear. And it will be better if we have people who are trained in their own area, who are of their area, who know their language, who can in fact provide some kind of counseling to such people, to the fishermen, to the women, to the children, so that they are able to overcome this shock, they are able to overcome this panic, and they are able to overcome this insecure feeling which has been brought about by the tsunami. And after the rehabilitation, the last step in immediate rehabilitation is disposal of dead. The dead has to be immediately disposed, the animals who have been dead has to be immediately buried and cremated, because that should not lead to any kind of epidemics or any kind of disease getting spread over in that area. Now, this was in fact what we spoke about, the short term or immediate rehabilitation. But now what follows is, after a 6 months time or after a 6 month span comes in not so immediate kind of rehabilitation, but that has also to be taken up, because that will prevent all kind of future mortalities and morbidities that will in fact happen. In not so immediate, but that has to be taken up soon, the first and most important rehabilitation step is damage and need assessment. How many people have been dead? How many people have been affected? What was the affected coastal line? How many kilometers of the coastal line was affected of our country after the tsunami? How many, what kind of rebuilding is now to be required? Now, they say Andaman and Nicobar Island have to be totally rebuilt. Now, this has to be assessed, what amount of money has to be pumped in to rebuild that island, to rebuild the settlements of the people, to rebuild the huts of the people, to give them the vessels, to give them the fishing boats. All this has to be assessed first of all in a little longer time, and that amount of money has to be given so that the coastline is repaired, the infrastructure is made, the fishing folks are in fact, the fishermen are in fact given their vessels and boats so that they can resume their livelihood as soon as possible. So, the first and most important step being the damage as well as the need assessment, that in fact figures as the first and very important step in a not so immediate or long term rehabilitation. The second is the social rehabilitation. As we said earlier, health infrastructure has to be improved or it has to be strengthened. The medical supplies have to be started. Most important care has to be given to the prevention of epidemics. Inoculation has to be started. Anganwadis for children, orphanages has to be started for the children, community centers for women, and the minors should be provided with a compensation. Not before 18 years they should be given that money, but the money given as compensation to them should be put in banks. Following the social rehabilitation is the economic rehabilitation of the people. In the longer term, it means providing them livelihood options, fisheries, prawn culture, aquarium reforms, helping them to participate in forestry programs, all this helping them to build the vessels. All these are in fact different livelihood options that can be provided to the people. So, at one time if there is a problem with one livelihood or one job of theirs, then they can take up another job in that period, in that lull period, so that they in fact are able to cope up with their they are able to get the means of livelihood and fend for themselves. Another step in the economic rehabilitation is reconstruction of harbours and fish landing places, providing them education and vocational training so that they are able to in fact get new kind of new means of livelihood. We also talk about psychological rehabilitation. Psychological rehabilitation basically, as what Dr. Sani was also mentioning, that was about emotional reactions people have, they have cognitive reactions, they have interpersonal problems, they have physical reactions. All this can be in fact coped up with a certain amount of counseling and coping techniques of counseling, of interpersonal reactions can be coped up with bringing them together in a group and providing them with a group therapy and all. Environmental rehabilitation, that will take care of how the plants have to be grown, how the trees have to be grown, the mangroves have to be grown, the community has to participate in the tree plantation, how the people should participate in growing artificial coral reefs, and the sea walls and dikes have to be built. So, all this will in fact help in preventing great amount of damage that has in fact happened.
So, one thing which is clear is the entire task of managing disasters is a very mammoth task, and the various activities need to be tailored to the local culture and local specificities. Now, coming back, like when we are talking about the role of administration, all said and done, the administration has to give a lead in the entire task of managing the disasters. Now, Professor Sahni, would you kindly throw light on this aspect, that we know now that there are certain tasks to be performed, skills to be needed. So, how can these things be strengthened?
Thank you very much, Uma. I would actually take it up in a very brief manner, that one can divide it into three categories as the tasks of the disaster management, that is the operations management, that is the human resource management, and that is the organizational management. In the operations management, one has to refer primarily onto the decision making, onto the problem solving, onto the information management techniques, and so on and so forth, so that the people are able to carry on with the things and cope up with the tasks which have been passed on to them. And of course, it includes the resource management and the monitoring of the resources which are there. When we talk of the human resource management, or the individuals or the people's management over there the focus has to be on leadership, focus has to be on planning, focus has to be on direction. And the third component which is included there is, that is the organizational development or the organizational management, which would certainly be referring on to planning, control, direction, communication, evaluation, overall organizational development, and so on, so that learning by the experiences, slowly and gradually, whatever we had been doing earlier, let us learn therefrom and try to improve upon the things, so that whenever in future such kind of the tragedy does take place, we are able to cope up with the task after it does happen. But nevertheless, it does not minimize the role of the manager or the administrator in preempting the disaster, in planning for the disaster, in preparing for the disaster, and also work to the extent whereby it could be prevented. And finally, when one takes stock of whatever has been referred to at length by Dolly, that is the rehabilitation leading to development and establishing a linkage between the development and the disaster.
Well, we have come at the fag end of this discussion. So, all this implies that administration now in managing disasters has to play a different role. It has to be proactive and take into, like, it has to be cooperative in nature and work with the community and other organizations which are working at the grassroots level. So, on behalf of Faculty of Public Administration, I would like to thank Professor Sahni and Dr. Dolly Matthew, and any queries, any suggestions regarding the certificate program in disaster management, feel free to write to the Faculty of Public Administration, School of Social Sciences, IGNOU. Thank you.
Thank you.